I think we can get started. I hope everyone can see the slide. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dataplatr. Thank you for joining the session today. Today, we are going to see about how to accelerate your enterprise analytics using Microsoft Fabric as an end-to-end solution. Speakers today, I am 𝗪𝗂𝗏𝗪𝗏. I'm a solution architect at Dataplatr. Along with me, we have Sagar, who's a BI architect at Dataplatr. He's also expert in Microsoft Fabric and certified as well.
Hello, everyone.
So about Dataplatr, who we are. So Dataplatr is specialized in AI and ML and data analytical solutions. We are helping business to harness the power of their data to drive transformation, growth, and efficiency. With over 15 years of experience in small to large enterprise analytics, our team of experts deliver tailor-made services that enhances the analytical capabilities of our clients. So our services are spread into three different verticals. First, on the data engineering and BI. So we provide end-to-end BI implementation, actually, like starting from the requirement gathering, design, data ingestion and transformations, and building visualizations, actually. So over the years, this team have also built various pre-built analytics and the templates for reusability and automation. This helps to accelerate the implementation cycle for the clients, actually. As a cloud native focused, this team gained experience with multiple cloud vendors like Azure, AWS, GCP, and they also have like various SaaS experience like Snowflake, Fivetran, and dbt. The next vertical is AI/ML. As part of this, it's an experienced data scientists and data engineers focused on machine learning, artificial intelligence, and Gen AI related solutions. So they tailor-make the solutions using open source modules, or they can even use the paywall modules like ChatGPT and Gemini based on the client needs, actually. So the third of our pillar is managed analytics, actually. So as part of this team manages the entire cloud infrastructure for our clients. So they try to automate the deployments and DevOps process, and they do support and monitoring as well. So through this they ensure the stability, continuity, and cost effectiveness for our clients, actually. So these are the three different verticals of our services. Okay, so before we jump into our main agenda, let's look at some of our key challenges the enterprise data platform team faces these days, actually. So the first one is managing multiple tools for the business intelligence. So this tool fragmentation poses a lot of challenges like data quality problems, data inconsistencies. Debugging any issues is a problematic here, and this requires a large team to support the infrastructure, actually. So the next is like data silos. So this is due to lack of integrated solutions. So the team working on this creates their own data, which leads to data duplications, data format issues. The granularity of the data is different, and sometimes they are not complained as well, actually. And on top of that, they lack the security features, like they don't implement the PII data masking, data access policies, row-level securities. All of these security policies are not properly implemented, actually. And then the next big one is like allocating uniform workload and computation across different regions and teams, actually. So the enterprise analytics and enterprise applications, they need flexibility to allocate these resources based on the needs of their team, actually, if they want to be like cost effective. And the next one is like enterprise level reporting capabilities, actually. So these days the reporting tools in the market, they lack key features like single sign-on integration, version control, security features like data masking and row-level security. And sometimes they even have limited chart options, which is a big problem for clients. And then they don't even have an embedded feature, actually. And the last one is like handling the real-time data, actually. So almost all the industries needs these capabilities these days, and then they need a special infrastructure to process both the batch and real-time data, because the data formats, the frequency of the data, data ingestion methods, and almost everything is different between them actually. So, one solution for all of this challenge is Microsoft Fabric. So our agenda today, Sagar will run us through Microsoft Fabric's key benefits, and then Fabric's architecture, and he'll run through the components of the architecture, and he'll explain the one-lake concept. And then he'll also explain us how to set up the workspace and capacities for enterprises, and then finally he'll go to the data pipelines as well. So then we look at one of our solutions that we implemented using Fabrics, and as part of that we will review this industry best practice Medallion architecture and the data model of our solution actually. And then we'll jump into the Power BI app to review the dashboards we built actually. With this, I'll hand over to Sagar.
Thanks, Prabhu. That was wonderful. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar. So before we delve into the concepts of Microsoft Fabric, we would like to get an understanding of what is your primary goal for attending the webinar on the Microsoft Fabric today. Please go ahead and poll. So there will be a pop-up on your screen, and you can go over this and please select your options. So we'll have 30 seconds for you. So this will help us better drive the content to you, and then it will help understand our audience better. So please take a moment. So we'll wait for another 10 seconds. Right. So here are the answers. I would say it's a mix match of all the options here. So I can say 40% are here to learn the basics about the Microsoft Fabric. So that's a good choice. And so other 40% are here to evaluate the Microsoft Fabric solution for your potential implementation. That's a great option. So we guarantee you that today you will take away some solid information with you. So on the next slide, so in the coming slides, so we will discuss about the benefits of the Microsoft Fabric. So as Prabhu mentioned, there are several challenges in the enterprise data platform analytics. So what are the benefits? So why are we offering the Microsoft Fabric solution? So here is it. So it's a software as a service. So that means it's a cloud-based delivery. So the infrastructure is readily available with just a click of a button for you, and it is scalable. So when we say scalable, you can always increase or decrease the infrastructure capacities based on your requirement. And so it's reliable, right? So when we say reliable, what it means is that so your data will have at least 3 physically separated data centers in a region. So there's a lot of data replication across the nodes. So even if one node fails, so there is so 2 other nodes are available for you. So it's very reliable. And you have subscription-based models where you have monthly and hourly subscription models. And of course, so you have automatic updates and upgradations, so all in one place. So next is the end-to-end analytics data platform. So what this means is that this offers services, right, that covers everything from data preparation to data processing to data delivery. So whether they are unstructured or semi-structured or even structured, it supports all kind of data formats. So including the sources like database, cloud services, IoT streams, plus it also includes the built-in data quality checks and as a great loved industry loved visualization tool that comes in built with this. So so the next is the integrated, and it's very user friendly. So what we say here is that it can seamlessly integrate with all the Microsoft ecosystem, and it allows the teams to collaborate through a shared platform. So it also supports third-party integrations for the reporting. So you can use other reporting tools as well. So all the interfaces are very user-friendly, and it supports no-code to low-code development methodology. So the last one, it's a centralized administration and governance. So Azure Active Directory, you can integrate Azure Active Directory for identity and access management. And you have Azure Store Service Encryption and Azure Disk Encrypt. So basically, you can encrypt the data even during the transit or even at the rest. So you have something called as Azure Purview. This is implement the cataloging, data lineage, and data compliance. So there are some sensitivity label concept where you can apply the sensitivity labels to different items, and the same sensitivity can be carry forwarded across the downstream objects. And you have the policies, like you have Azure data policies to enforce the data retentions and deletions. So this is very important that you have this policy that to apply for the data retentions and the deletions. So we'll talk about it in the further slides, why it is useful. So next we'll discuss about the architecture. So here, so as you can see in this picture, so you have different components, and you have the serverless compute in the middle layer, and you have the one lake, the bottom layer. So there are different workloads for whether you are a data engineer or a scientist, or you are a data warehousing professional. So this is suitable for you. So there's a clear distinction between the compute and the storage here. So the storage, when we say it's a unified data lake storage, and there's a Spark engine behind a lakehouse which handles the unstructured, semi-structured, as well as the structured data. And there's a SQL engine behind a warehouse, and this handles the structured data. So similarly, you have KQL engine behind a KQL database. This is basically used for the real-time intelligence. And then you have analysis services behind a Power BI reporting tool that comes inbuilt with this Microsoft Fabric. So all you can see that is all these services are running on the serverless computes, and you have a one lake that is like more or less it's a 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗃 format. So all the objects that you store in the one lake, it's of the 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗃 format. So we'll discuss in the next slide about this. So before we discuss about the one lake, let's go over each of the component. Let's have a quick overview of what these does, so that you'll be familiar with all these components. So the first one is the data factory. You have the service in the Microsoft Fabric. So what this is used for is for data integration, data transformation, orchestrations, and monitoring. And basically, there are two components in it. So one is the data flow Gen 2, and the other one is data pipeline. So the data pipelines, so basically used for the extract, transform, and load logic. And then you have this can be used for the orchestrations as well, and even for the monitoring. So you have data flow Gen 2. So basically, this is used for the data cleansing, transformation, and aggregation. And if you look at the UI of data flow Gen 2, this is like more or less Power Query experience. Like if you're already familiar with the Power Query experience, which comes with the Power BI, so this is similar to that. So the Gen 2, there's only one difference where in the Gen 1, you're not able to define the destination to a target, but in Gen 2, you're able to define the destination as a target as one lake. So going to the next service, so this is a Synapse data engineering service. So behind this data engineering service, there will be a lakehouse. So by default, so which contains, so basically the lakehouse, which this is supported for structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data. So this is used for big data and ELT processing. So basically, you write the code in your notebooks, and you can execute that in this big data platform. So this is also used for orchestrations and monitoring. So behind the scenes, what happens is it uses the Spark engines, so which is a distributed computing framework that essentially gives high throughput with less time. So going to the next service, which is a data science service. So this is built on top of the Azure machine learning. So basically, this is used for model building, your model training, and model deployments. So basically, you can create your experiments. And so all those things, you can do it with your notebooks. And you can also build your environment. Suppose for a particular model, if you want a particular library to be imported, So you can create an environment for it and use the same environment across the other models as well. So going to the next service, which is a Synapse data warehouse. So data warehouse. So as you're all are familiar with the data warehouse. So here, this is a scalable and high performance warehouse. So used for data storage, data processing of large volumes of structured data like efficiently. So when we say efficiently, so we have a columnar storage. It uses massively parallel processing engine to handle the large scale data workloads. And by default, when you create a warehouse, there will be an SQL endpoint that gets created automatically. So behind every warehouse, there will be a TSQL engine. Underlying data is stored in the Delta Parquet format, of course. But so when you query this warehouse using the SQL endpoint, so what happens is the request gets converted to SQL, and then the SQL will be fired on top of the warehouse. Okay. So since this is a columnar storage, so the Delta Parquet format, so what it means is that so you have, it's a Parquet format along with the transaction logs attached to it. So what we can do with that is you can do time travel. So basically you can do the time travel using those transaction logs. Okay. So let's look at the next component, which is the real-time intelligence. So this is something like it brings a complete set of capabilities for streaming data. And no doubt it's a no-code theme along with self-service experiences. And it is built on top of Azure Event Hubs and Azure Stream Analytics. And also it leverages the power of Data Explorer, Azure Data Explorer. And you have a new thing here, which is called a real-time hub. So consider this as a single location for all your data in motion. Okay? And also it supports the creation of the KQL database, which is suitable for large-scale data analytics and real-time data exploration. So KQL is something similar to SQL, but optimized for analyzing logs and some telemetry data, etc. And you can also like create KQL query sets, which are nothing but a group of KQL queries and can be executed at once. So what it means is it can be reusable. So you can reuse this across the other projects as well. Okay, so the next component that we're talking about is the Power BI. So I'm sure like most of you are already familiar with Power BI. So here, this is an internal component that comes with the Fabric, and all the rich features remains intact. Okay, so you have all the rich features, but it now comes with an additional improvised method of accessing the data from one lake, which is called Direct Lake. We will delve into this concept of Direct Lake in the further slides. And as before, you also have a place for collaboration and sharing through the workspaces. And you know that you have one lake, so you can share the data among different teams. And you have dynamic functions here. So that means report scheduling can be automated, and you can like leverage the personalized touch while delivering the reports to individuals. So basically, you can use the data filters, different set of specific formatting for an individual or specific visualization. So those things you can do with this dynamic subscription. And the next we have is the data activator. So it is a service in Fabric, which is used to trigger an action based on a specific data event. So basically, this is used to improve the responsiveness based on the data. So basically, what happens is it can monitor the data from different sources, like your Power BI reports, it can be your Azure Data Explorer, or other such Microsoft services. And based on the actions, you can send notifications, or even you can trigger the downstream workflows or call an external API as well. So basically, so here we have covered most of the components. So key points to remember here is that all the engines behind different services uses the serverless computes, which are tagged to the capacities. So we will talk about the capacity in the further slides. And all the services can leverage the same one lake data store with all the data security rules in place as well. Okay, so as you saw the earlier architecture diagram, there's a clear distinction of the compute and the storage being in a different locations. So that's a highlight of this. So now let's look into the one lake architecture. So what is one lake? So one lake is a unified data lake that centralizes all your data storage needs. And it is based out of ADLS Gen 2. so which is Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. And it's a single repository for structured as well as semi-structured or unstructured data as well. So you can store all sort of data formats in the one lake. And it uses the data mesh architecture. So where every department within an organization can manage their data as a product, right? So, and also the data can reside in different regions depending on the capacity being used. So there is a concept like the workspaces, even in the Fabric. So what is a workspace? It is a place to collaborate with the different teams and store like various collections of items such as warehouse, lakehouse, your Power BI reports, probably data pipelines or data flows, and you can store many more items in each of these workspaces. So as you can see here, one lake for each Fabric tenant. That means when you enable the Fabric tenant, so if you have one tenant, so you will only have one instance of the one lake. Okay, and the data that can be stored in this is a Delta Parquet format. Unified security, when we say that, so you protect the data once, and it can, the same data can be utilized across multiple workspaces, and so it enables the distributed ownership. Right? And we say global reach. So each workspace that you see here will be allocated with capacity, and that capacity can be in different regions. Okay, so we'll talk about more on the capacity in the further slides. And then there's a new thing which is called as shortcuts here. So what is a shortcut? So shortcut is like a pointer to an external data source. So rather than copying the data from that external source to your one lake, it's a pointer which points to that external source, and you have a direct access to that. So this is an external artifact where the pointer is pointing to the external artifact. So similarly, you have something called as internal shortcuts. So the internal shortcuts, what it means is like you might have different lake houses or different warehouses residing in different workspaces. And if you want to query from one workspace to another workspace, so then you can create shortcuts, which is nothing but an internal shortcut. So here also the concept of the pointers, like you don't have to copy the entire data from one workspace to other workspace. So it's a direct access to the internal artifacts. So, and we have one lake which is interoperable. So what it means is that you have like several third-party applications can also be integrated with this. You can easily change the Power BI reporting tool to whatever the tool that you need, which supports the Delta Parquet format, right? So it is very interoperable. So as I said earlier, so we'll discuss about the capacities and the workspaces. So this is something very important here. So take a look at this diagram. So this is a typical example of how you structure your Fabric project for an organization. So in this example, we have only one tenant and three departments, right? So within the departments, you have individual teams, and each team can have their own workspaces. So consider this workspace is dedicated for a team. So basically what we are showing is the logical architecture of your workspaces and the capacities. So when we say domain, it is nothing but a logical grouping of workspaces. So mostly done at the department level. And you have capacities. So these are the logical group of resource pools that are packaged together. And you have regions tied with the capacity. So when you define a capacity, there is an option like you can choose a region there, and you can assign a capacity to a workspace, right? And you can also assign capacities based on the geographical regions for different departments. Let's say like if your department, one of the departments is in a different region, then you can have the capacity in that particular region, and you can assign that capacity to a particular region where it resides in the same region as the capacity. So one thing that you can notice here is that the billing is entirely dependent on the capacity, okay, and its usages. So there's no billing associated with the number of items or the number of workspaces. It's only on the capacity, of course, but there's a slight a nominal charge that you have to pay for your storage. So the number of items that whatever you create in the workspace, it doesn't directly impact the storage, but the underlying data, like how much data you are storing with each of those items, so that will cost. So since the compute and storage are decoupled, so you have separate charges for both compute and storage. Okay. So now let's look at our data pipeline. So here it's a quick peek through to one of our dynamic reusable data pipelines, which we have built for processing the procurement data. So basically, this pipeline fetches the data from .csv files stored in the Azure Blob Storage. So these files are basically extracted from Oracle Procurement. And so here you can see like it stages the data into the bronze layer and processes it further to the silver layer by using our dynamic reusable code. So this is like which can be used across different use cases. So this reusable component is very important in reducing the development time and effort for not reinventing the wheels. So we have built that code in this. And then it also looks up into the sequences of your gold layer processes, right? And it processes the data based on, it's further divided into the individual gold layer tables upon loading the data. And next, once the gold layer tables are populated, it is consumed by the reports. So as you can see this, this is a pipeline execution sequence. So the first one is a configuration lookup, source files lookup, bronze to silver layer data load happening here. And then the gold layer jobs lookup is happening here. And then finally, the gold layer data load is happening in this. Okay. And there's one interesting method to fetch the data from the gold layer tables through the built-in Power BI tool, which is a direct lake. So that is a new thing in the Fabric. So in the next slide, we will know about that. So let's assume that your gold layer table is ready, right? What after that? After that, so your data is residing in the Delta Parquet format, and you have your Delta tables as well as Delta files. So you have your Power BI reporting as well. So let's before talking about the direct lake, right? So we will go over the direct query method and import method as well as the direct lake method. Okay. So what is a direct query? So in Power BI engine, when it queries the data at source, right? So the request goes through the SQL endpoint, which gets converted into the TSQL or any database specific engine format, and then it executes them at the source. So for each and every request from the report, the entire query will be getting converted and you will be getting the results in the real time. But any changes in the data source are like immediately reflected in your query and immediately you can show it in your report. But there's one drawback here. This can be slow, right? Because every time it has to be converted into a SQL and it has to fire into the database and you have to get the results. So this can be a little slow, but it avoids copying and storing the data in the semantic model. Whereas the other mode, which is the import mode, what happens is the data is imported and stored in the semantic model itself. But keep a note that this is not suitable for all set of workloads. Only if your data set is less, then only then you can use this import method. And here, since you're importing the data into your semantic model, there's a periodic refreshment of your semantic model is necessary to reflect the source data change. And since this data is cached and optimized for DAX and MDX reports, so without having to translate it to SQL, so your reports will be faster actually. So now let's understand what is a direct link, right? So consider this as a magical link to your data. It doesn't use the SQL endpoint, and also it eliminates the data import requirement by accessing the data directly from the one link. So it doesn't do any of these things, right? So it directly queries the data from the underlying Delta Parquet files. And so basically what happens, the Parquet file, right? So it splits the files and uses the distributed processing technique. And the computation will be having in different nodes, and the processing will be very fast. So there's no translation from DAX to SQL or any other language because there's no explicit import happening here. I would say like this is an ideal choice for analyzing large volumes of data with frequent changes as well. So whether you are querying millions of rows or billions of rows, so this method would be the fastest, and it supports the near real-time methodology. So the near real-time option is also available. And this method, it supports the row level security and object level security as well. So, users can see only see like what they are intended to see. Okay. So before like we go further, so we would like to know about your understanding of how can the Microsoft Fabric improve your data analytics landscape. So please go over and choose the options. So there will be a pop-up on your screen. So we'll give some time. So this will help us better understand our audience. We'll give about 10 seconds more. All right. So majority of you, like almost more than 60% of you are saying that it can handle complex data engineering without depending on the external tools. That's a great option. And I would say like the next majority, what I'm seeing here is that it brings simplicity and integration to our existing analytics platform. That's a great choice. Yes, whatever the options that you have chosen here is true. So now I hand it over to Prabhu, who can delve into deeper aspects of Medallion architecture and present a relevant use case. Over to you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Sagar. That was very detailed explanation about the architecture, actually. So yeah, let's look at this Medallion architecture. This is one of the industry best practice in terms of designing our data models or designing our data warehouse in Fabric, actually. To read this slide from left to right, on the left you can see all of our well-known enterprise source systems like Oracle, ERPs, and the planning systems like Oracle Hyperion, and then the Workday, which is our 𝗬𝗵𝗄, and then the CRM solutions like Salesforce, and then some of the modern data sets like Google Analytics, Facebook data, like Twitter, any other modern data that we can import, actually. So what we do here is an ELT concept, right? Extract, load, and then do rest of the transformations through SQL actually. So the extract is done through this Fabric's data factory. And the first step is like, we extract this data into our storage, and then we load them into our data warehouse actually. So, in the data warehouse, if you look at, there are three layers: bronze, silver, and gold. The three layers actually. So the bronze layer is the first layer, which stores the raw data from the source systems as is. So the main concept that is implemented in the bronze layer is like change data capture. And it also has like all the audit trials in here actually. So, and then from there we have the silver layer. The bronze upserts the data into silver layer. All the incremental data that's landed in the bronze layer gets updated. Now, if it's an existing data, that's an updated. If it's a new data, that gets inserted into the silver layer. So the silver layer stores the historical data in it, and then we apply some basic cleaning exercise in the silver layer. Like now, it could be time zone conversion, it could be a currency conversion, or standardizing the column names and table names. So any of those basic transformations which can be applied, to all of the data from the respective source systems can be applied in the silver layer. And also we can automate many of these transformations, like reusable code. Through a reusable code can accelerate this process. I think that's one of the example Sagar showed us kind of reusable components actually. So that's a silver layer. And then the third one is the gold layer. This is where we do all of the business transformations. Either it could be an aggregating information or denormalizing data or deriving some information. All of the business rules gets applied in the gold layer actually. So pretty much all of the analytical needs, now we use the gold layer, but then even the silver layer can be used for some of the either your data science need or some specific needs. Both silver and gold layers can be an end user consumption, whereas the bronze is only used for the data team for the internal data processing. So all of this transformations again, happening through a SQL way using data pipelines actually. And then, of course, these are all of this code is like version controlled. It follows the SOX compliance, etc. And this is the structure that we call it as Medallion architecture. And then from the gold layer, when we expose this to the visualization tool like Power BI, now you can see that we are using the direct lake concept, which is again, advantage in the fabrics, which gives us the performance that we need actually. So yeah, that's the Medallion architecture. Can move on to the next slide. Okay, I think I called out about the pre-built models and pre-built analytics actually. So most of us know that all the enterprise platforms like Oracle ERP or Salesforce or Workday, they have the standard data structures. So once we build the models on top of that, we can reuse it for like multiple clients actually. So we just capitalize the same concepts like the CRM suites, ERP, so especially the Oracle Financials, and then we also integrated Hyperion, Oracle Hyperion along with this solutions. And then as part of human resource analytics, we built on top of the Workday. And then the contact center analytics. Again, there are two flavors of the contact center analytics. One is the traditional, which is based on the switch data or the IVR data. And then the modern data analytics is based on the voice recordings actually. So we leverage the GenAI features to to derive the metrics out of the voice recordings actually. Then of course there is an IoT analytics as well. Like we have some of the pre-built modules based on the IoT data. So if you have more interest on knowing more about this and how to use this for our use cases, you can definitely reach us. We can show you in the end of the session actually. So we can move on to the next. Okay, so the use case that we are going to talk about is procurement spend analytics. So this is again on top of our Oracle ERP. As part of this solution, we have built 4 different modules actually. So the first one is the procurement overall. So as the name implies, we are bringing data from multiple fact tables. Sagar, can you go on mute? Okay. So as part of the procurement overall, we are bringing data together from the purchase requisitions, purchase orders, purchase invoices, and spend snapshots actually. So the data from multiple fact tables are coming together to give an overall picture of a procurement. So the complexity here on the procurement overall is all of these data sets are many to many in relationship. Like you raise a requisition, and from one requisition you can have multiple purchase orders raised out of the requisition section, or it can be vice versa. Similarly, between the purchase orders to purchase invoices, again that has like many to many relationships. So in order to bring them data together, we achieve this through a specific data model actually. And then moving on to the next module is like approval history for purchase orders and purchase requisition. This is again very special need for the approvals team, the requisitions team, because it's also very operational nature. Because if there is any delay, they need to understand deeper, like why this PO or PR is delayed, and where is it stuck right now. How many times it's going back and forth, and who is the approver. Why? What is the reason for the delay? All of that they need information to really digest this. So this module is going to talk deeper about that actually. And then the next one is like more of invoices, like what is the invoice received, how much is paid out of that, and how much invoices with PO, without PO. So a lot of metrics and analysis we do on top of invoices as part of this actually. And finally, the spend snapshot is mostly the invoices, but we look at as a snapshots, because the snapshots are important because we need to know the trend, period over period trend. Because sometimes what happens, these transactions, once they get updated, you can't really know like what was happening at the point of time actually. So this is an additional feature. We build this snapshot in the BI layer, even if sometimes the source systems, if they don't capture these historical information very well, then we will ensure we will create the snapshots and preserve this data for business to understand the trend actually. So these are the 4 different modules we built on top of procurement spend analytics actually. I think with this we can jump into the Power BI app for a live demo. Let me take this now. Just give me a moment. Just going to make myself as a presenter. I'm going to share my screen. I hope you all can see the Power BI application now. I'm in the home page of the Power BI, but we are going to look at the apps. That's one of the recent release from Power BI actually. So the concept of app is still a dashboard, but this gives a much better UI for the dashboards. It gives like an app kind of interface for the dashboards. You can see on the left side, the various dashboards as a as a tab concept here actually. It appears as a tabs here actually, and then this also has all the security features like you can enable certain tabs for certain teams, and you can apply the row level security. All of this, the security that can be applied in the apps as well actually. So first on the procurement overall, the way we structure the dashboards, if you read from the top to bottom, the high level numbers are on the top as a single value tiles, and then as you go further down, you go deeper actually. It's kind of giving you a story about the data actually. So now on the procurement overall, as I claimed earlier, it is bringing data from multiple facts together, like requisitions, like how much is the requisition raised in the year of 2023. Again, the 2 filters on the top is ledgers in the year. So right now I just put all ledgers, but only filter to 2023. It shows all the requisitions raised in 2023, and then how many of them are received as a purchase orders, and how many of the purchase orders are really invoiced actually. So this shows the detail. Again, don't pay too much attention to the numbers because it's a markup number. So just look at the theme actually. So going further down, it further dwells into the details of this requisition. For example, here, who are the top 10 suppliers? This requisitions are placed actually. Similarly, the top 10 suppliers for the purchase orders and the invoices, etc. Actually, and then further down, you can see like month over month, how many requisitions are placed and orders are received and invoiced out of them. All of that you can see month over month actually. Again, further to the bottom, we generally provide like very granular information. It's maybe like operations teams need, but you can always see that like purchase orders and the order numbers, the individual purchase orders, and who's the vendor, and what's the amount, etc. All of the details you can see. And then the beauty is here, against every purchase order, you can see like how much is the ordered and invoiced, and how much is the paid out of that, unpaid. All of the details, you can see. Usually, if you go to ERP, you can't see this information together in a single page actually. So that's the value that we are bringing in as an analytical solution section. And moving on to the next page, this is like approval history for PO and PR, as I explained in the data model. So here, this goes like deep dive into approvals informations. Again, here you can, the filters are even richer here. Actually, you can choose a particular PO number or PR number, and you can choose certain approvers and find out like, the status. Then you can even choose by the status and then see the details actually. So it shows like approval requisitions by top vendors, the orders by the top vendors, and then it also shows that you can collapse this details by year, by quarter, and by month. And then here it is showing this by vendor name, like who's the top player, who's the bottom player, etc. And further down, it's a granular information. So we themed always like the high level numbers on the top, and then going down, it's very granular data actually. So moving on to the next tab, this is our invoice information. You can see it from the tiles on the top. So it shows like the total invoice amount, how much is paid and how unpaid out of that. And moving down, it is showing the same details by ledgers actually, like which ledger has unpaid and invoice amount. And then you can further down, you can see this information by vendors actually. So this is very important to know, it is very important to pay the vendors on time. If you have to receive materials on time. So this visuals helps us to understand how we are doing there actually. So further down, again, the granular information at invoice level. So the last one is like the spend snapshot, as I explained. This is pretty much the invoice data, but then it gives us like month over month. It's also like we are taking snapshots on the BI end to overcome some of the limitations of our ERP applications. And then I'm showing the trend action. So here, the only new information that we can see here is the paid and unpaid. I don't think any other pages we put that information. The invoices with PO and without PO actually. So this is very important because if the invoices without purchase orders, they are probably bypassing some of the process that we laid out actually. So we need to pay attention to those actually. Okay, so that is pretty much on the dashboards that we built. I'll probably go back to slides. Okay, so as we are done with the demo, we'll probably take a quick moment to take this poll. So just want to understand, how soon are you planning to implement or upgrade your data analytics solutions to Microsoft Fabric? Let's take 30 seconds to answer this poll. Okay, let's take a look at the results. I see a mixed results here. Almost like 30% answered within the next 3 months. That's very encouraging. But another 30% they say like no immediate plans. Yeah, that will obviously give you ample of time to evaluate. We can definitely help you to evaluate as well. So another 23% they responded like next six months, and 15% next year actually. Okay, so yeah, definitely we can help you on that. We can move on to next. We probably will have a Q&A session. Let's look at some of the questions that's been asked. So I can probably, Sagar, go through the questions. I hope you can answer them.
So I think we received a couple of good questions here. So I can see one of the questions like, what if I have multiple tenants? Can I query the data from one tenant while in another? Yes, this is a good question. Yes, we can do this. So as I explained the concept of shortcut, you can create an internal shortcut here. So between different tenants, so which points to the data in different workspaces. So essentially you can do this. It's a good question. Yeah, next I see another question, like how do I govern the Fabric environment? Yes, you have a component which is called Microsoft Purview, which is still in the preview stage. So you have like inbuilt dashboards in this, where you can know the items that is residing in a particular workspace. So you can build the reports accordingly. Like you can, as I said earlier, so there's a concept of sensitivity labels as well. So you can apply those sensitivity labels, and you can actually build the reports on top of considering the sensitivity labels as well. So there are multiple inbuilt dashboards that you can use with that component. Okay, and I can also see another question which is saying like, can we perform Git integrations to data pipeline? Yes, not exactly to one item, but you can perform the Git integration to the entire workspace. So whatever the items that you have inside that workspace, so everything can be Git integrated. Okay, so this is possible. Of course, there are some limitations to this, like certain objects are not supported, but in the later releases, I think it will get fixed. Okay, I see another interesting question here. So can we have shortcuts defined for Google BigQuery? So at this moment, I think, so when I refer to it as far as I remember, so there are a limited set of source where you can define the shortcuts, but I don't think Google BigQuery is supported, but Google Cloud Storage is supported, GCS. So you can point to the GCS bucket. Okay. So, yeah, I think there are other questions as well, but in the interest of time, I think we can look into it later. We'll send the response later.
Yeah, sure. Let's take a note of the questions and we can send the response. As we're reaching the end of the session, you should know like how to reach us. So, info@dataplatr.com. So, any questions and if you have anything that you want to do a POC, just definitely reach us. We have experts to help you out actually. And then we also listed some of our upcoming webinars here. But ensure like you follow us, the LinkedIn, you register all of our events. That will send you the reminders on the timely manner actually. So thank you again for joining the session today. We will definitely meet you with another wonderful session. 𝗬𝗁𝗧𝗪, you're probably on mute.
Thank you. Thanks for your time, audience.
Bye-bye.